Good morning Year 3 and welcome to today's maths video. Today's maths video is for Monday the 25th of January and we are going to be looking at learning to compare measures in grams. We use smaller units to measure the mass of lighter objects. There are some objects that are lighter than 1 kilogram. For example, the paperclip has a mass of 1 gram. This pencil has a mass of 5 grams. So what is 1g? You'll notice here I've written 1g and 5g. Well, the g stands for grams and we always read it as grams. So I wouldn't say the pen has a mass of 5g. I would say the pen has a mass of 5 grams. Now here I know that the pencil case has a mass of 350 grams and I know that because on my scale it goes 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Now I'm pointing at a marker, my needle is pointing at a marker that is exactly halfway in between 300 and 400. And I know the number that is halfway between 300 and 400 is 350. So I know that the mass of that pencil case is 350 grams. If I look at the muffin, now my muffin is much lighter. For this one, I needed to look really carefully. I know that from this point here to this point here is 100 grams. Now obviously I haven't gone past that point. I know that my muffin weighs less than 100 grams. Now this point here is halfway between 0 and 100. And I know that halfway between 0 and 100 is 50. So I know from here to here is 50. If I count how many intervals I've got between, it should reveal to me what the answer is. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I know if I've got 5 points between 0 and 50, then each point must be worth 10 grams. Now I know that each marker, each interval is worth 10 grams. I know that I am pointing to the second, my needle is pointing to the second mark, so it's 0, 0, 10, 20 grams. So I know that the muffin has a mass of 20 grams. Let's look at number 2. So now we are looking at the mass of the toy truck. Now I know my intervals are 100, 200, 300, 400, all the way to 500. Now this needle is pointing at exactly between 400 and 500, so I know that that point on my scale is 450, because 450 is halfway between 400 and 500. So I know that the toy truck has a mass of 450 grams. Let's look at the parcel. So the parcel has a mass of 400 grams. I know that straight away because my needle is pointing directly at 400 and we're measuring in grams. So that point is 400 grams. Which one's heavier, the toy truck or the parcel? Hopefully you're able to answer me that the toy truck is heavier than the parcel because it has a greater mass. Let's look at question 4. Now here, it's not liking me trying to zoom in. So for question 4, which scale would you use to find the mass of the watermelon and which scale would you use to find the mass of a rubber? So here you have one scale that is measuring in kilograms, from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4 kilograms, and the other scale is measuring in grams, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 grams. Which one would you use for a watermelon and which one would you use for a rubber? Well, hopefully you'd agree with me that you would use scale B for the watermelon, because watermelons are quite heavy and it is likely that your watermelon is over or at least 1 kilogram in mass. Whereas your rubbers are a lot smaller and a lot lighter, and it's very unlikely that your rubber would weigh 1 kilogram. So as a result, it's much more accurate to weigh your rubber in grams, and therefore you'd want to use scale A. Let's have a look. So these are the questions from your practice book. Crikey. It's not liking me trying to zoom in, it keeps taking me backwards. So the mass of 1g is 1 gram. So these little 1g symbols, they are showing 1 gram weights. So what is the lid? What is the mass of this lid of a pen? So this pen lid is sat here and it is on a set of balancing scales. I know that each one of these little weights is 1 gram. So the overall mass of this side is 4 grams. It is a set of balancing scales. I know that my pen lid has the same mass as this side. So that means the mass of my pen lid is 4 grams. Now for the pencil, again, my scale is balanced. That means both sides are the same. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 grams. So I know that this side has a mass of 9 grams and so does my pencil. Looking over at C, this time I've measured a sharpener. Now again, the scales are balanced. I know they are the same mass each side. And the mass of this side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grams. So the mass of my sharpener is also 7 grams. Then for the rubber. Now this time we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We have 20 grams this side. Now the scales are equal. They're balanced. So that tells me that my rubber has a mass of 20 grams. Now this time you're looking more at the scales than a mass of an object. I want you to look really carefully and see if you can put in the numbers into my missing blocks. So here, my scale is going all the way round and I can see that my number is getting greater by 10 each time because I've gone from 0 to 10. Now I've got one number here in between 10 and 30, and I know that if I'm going up in tens, then this number would be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Looking at B. Now it's not quite as easy this time because my first number is 50, not 10. However, look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points between my 0 and 50. And that tells me that each point is going up by 10. So my marker here would be 50. My marker here is 10 more than 100. So it's 110. Because look, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. We know it's definitely going up by 10 grams at a time. So this marker here is 110 grams. Then there's two ways of knowing this one. We could count on in tens, but also it is halfway between 150 and 250. So that tells me that that point there is 200 grams. And we can just check it by counting on in tens. 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So that part there is 200. Looking at this scale, now this scale's even smaller. We've got 0 here all the way around to 10. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points between 0 and 10. And that tells us that this time each mark of my scale is 1 gram. So how many here? Well, I can see this marker here is a bit longer because it's halfway between 0 and 10. I know that this marker, because it's halfway between 0 and 10, is 5. Now the marker I'm looking for is 1 before 5. And that tells me that that marker must be 4 grams. Looking here, I've got 20. I've got my halfway mark between 20 and 30, so that must be 25. Now this time it's 1, 2, 3 after 20, so that mark is 23. Finally up here, we've got 40. I know that mark there is 45 because it's halfway. And then if I carry on, 5 more is 50. And if I were to count round, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. It is correct. So that mark there is 50. Last one. Now we've got 0 all the way around to 500. I've got a marker here for 100 and I've got a halfway mark here. So I know that halfway mark is halfway between 0 and 100. So that mark there is 50. I've then got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know each one is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So if I know that each mark is going up in tens, I've got 100, 110, 120, 130. So my first marker here that's missing is 130. This one here, now we're pointing directly at the 200, so that is 200. If I'm remembering that it's going up in 10 each time, this one here is 10 before 300, so I know that's 290. And this one is 10 after 400, so it's 410. Now lastly, I know that one whole lap of my scale is 500 grams, and this marker is 10 before, so I know this marker is 490. So let's have a look at this one. Now this time we have to say, what is the mass? Now we have a sandwich in here, and the mass of the sandwich is 100 grams because it's pointing directly at the 100 and we're measuring in grams. So the mass of the sandwich is 100 grams. If we look at the lunchbox, now we're not going up. Our first number isn't 100, but we know that this mark here would be 100 because it's halfway between 0 and 200. But we're lucky with this one, it's pointing directly at a number, so we know that the mass of the lunchbox is 400 grams. Question C, the pencil case. This one is a little bit trickier. I wonder if it will let me zoom in a little bit more. Brilliant, it will. I know that from there to there is 100, and from there to there is 100, and that's why that marker is 200. But how much is each one worth? Well, look, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I know that's 100 because it's halfway between 0 and 200, and each mark is going up by 10. So if I look here, I'm on 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250. So I know that the pencil case has a mass of 250. Now question D, the box of biscuits. If I look, I know that my scale is going up 100, 200, 300. Halfway between 300 and 400 would be 350. And I know it's going up in tens because I can check here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So it is going up in tens. If we look at this scale, this marker here is slightly darker because it's halfway between 300 and 400. That's really helpful because that means that mark there is 350, 60, 70. So I know that my needle there is pointing to 370. Lastly, the grapes. We know that from here to here is 100. So from here to here must be 50 because it's halfway. Again, we're going up in tens to get from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 all the way up. So here is 100. We've got another halfway marker here between 100 and 200, which means this must be 150. Again, we can count it to check. 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So if I was to count on from 150, 160, 170. So I know that the grapes have a mass of 170 grams. Now, this one's a little bit trickier. We've got an empty bowl and we've got a bowl of marbles. It says the empty bowl has a mass of something. Some marbles are put into the bowl. The bowl and the marbles have a mass of something else. So what is the mass of the marbles? Well, you can work out the mass of the marbles by knowing the mass of your bowl and removing that from the mass of your bowl and your marbles, because then you would be left with just the marbles. So our bowl, if we look at our scale, we're lucky again because it's pointing to a number. So we know that an empty bowl has a mass of 300 grams. I know that the marbles and the bowl have a mass of, oh, now this one's a little bit trickier, but let's see if we can work it out. We've got 400, halfway would be 450, 60, 70, 80. So I know that the mass of my marbles and my bowl is 480. If I now remove the 300 grams from 480, I'm left with 180. So the mass of the marbles is 180 grams. Very well done if you got that one right. I'll see you later for more videos. Goodbye.